Bonjour, and welcome back to... Quite some time have passed since the last episode. It appears that maintaining a video per month is a challenge way harder than Pyanodons. One of the reasons is that Pyanodons is freaking hard, and pushing too much can cause severe burn damage. Anyway, it is time to continue our journey and explore some new stuff. We begin on the right foot with already a problem with automation science. Yeah, simple problem, but a recurrent one. Not enough planter boxes because there is not enough stone. We actually have a more urgent matter in the name of logistical science. As you recall, last episode was all about putting everything onto trains. We started with a city block design but resigned ourselves to abandon the idea and go for a free-form design. Yet, we had not finished the last science. Time flies, even with 100 hours gameplay. Where to start? With orcs first, since they are the one responsible for the manure, which is absolutely necessary for the cyanic acid present in the batteries. Yep, not the most useful usage of poop in this period of time in France, but hey, what can you do? I don't need that much orcs for now, even though their death brings a lot of goodies. I am more concerned about their poop. So, as long as I have enough orcs modules, they can go visit the abattoir. It is quite a downgrade from vacation to slaughterhouse, but we don't have the budget anymore. The poop building is quite easy to reproduce and double. The difficulty comes from the fact that I don't have that much bots. So when I accidentally give them a long and arduous task, they are indisposed. Bah oui, eux ils bossent au moins. Ah, I did not miss you. Moi oui. I also happen to have still some train jams, but not as much as before thanks to your advices. For instance, in this case, I know in the blink of an eye what the problem is. No signal at all. Once the orgs are done, we can move on to the cyanic acid and the melanin as well. Like last time, we turn the poop into liquid poop in order to produce urea, which can then be decomposed into cyanic acid and ammonia. We also need to reduce some Zogna bacteria. Here you see me in one of my two rare genius moments, putting lamps onto a train. They are used in quite some recipes, so it is no waste. Also, with my new system of trains, it is very easy to set up the stations. According I remember what goes into what. Great exercise for the memory. Once there, the rest is pretty straightforward, so let's move on to the next matter at hand. Or maybe not. Let's have a fun moment before. Deconstruction. I won't show every single occurrence of it, but I have spent quite a long time cleaning the old factory and the old bus. For me, it was very satisfying and fun to do, but to watch, even for me, it is quite tedious. So, through the magic of editing, we keep only the best parts. The main ideas are twofold. Once I rebuild something, I deconstruct, and when I deconstruct something small, I build it in the mold like the mechanical parts. Truth be told, I am not using them as much as I thought I would. If it comes to it, I'll do a proper build, but this simple setup will suffice for the rest of this episode. Then, I quickly redo the Nichrome build before checking the Orcs build. All done. Perfect. Now we have a big item to deal with. Plasmids. We are only missing laboratory instruments. But they are not straightforward. So let's begin with the rubber. I decide to put it under the tar processing build since I'll need a few of the items I'm producing there, such as aromatics for the polybutadiene and the organic solvent for a soon-to-come later recipe. It is around this time I realized that counting solely on logistical bots for small components such as pipes was optimistic, to say the least. Maybe with way more bots or faster ones, it could work. But as I told you, it is crisis time. Also, I have some decorative urges that strikes me unexpectedly. They are very short-lived though. Maybe one day I'll take the time to really decorate the base. But since I'm not really sure this will end to be the final base, des excuses encore et encore. Don't mind him, he's grumpy because he could not throw manure. He has not overcome the unknown stage yet. We reproduced one out of the two beasts. We have to redo the cotton guts. Honestly, it went smoother than I expected. I kept a bad memory of long waiting periods, but once you got enough modules, it is fairly easy. The cotton guts start with some starch used in their food. Then we recreate the studs because they are the modules themselves. We have stud pups and studs. Then it is time to redo the normal pups and cotton guts. I get awkwardly interrupted by a small blackout. I see. I have too much blue gas, so ashes jammed the process. Easy fix. Everything is fine. I just spent the flue gas above 80% of the container. After all, I'm the only one getting poisoned. The other living creatures get obliterated, so they don't have time to get diseases. It seems the problem was a bit more serious than I thought. My latch doesn't work because I haven't properly disconnected all the copper wires of the electric poles. I kept sending 18 megawatts of power throughout the base that requires at least 1.5 gigawatts. As I fix it, my electric grill feels much better and so does my morale. Ha! Yes! Where were we? True, the cotton guts themselves. Nothing major here. I just forgot about the fish eggs, but we don't need much, so I put a little gate on the belt to only get the excess and send it by train. Finally, I can reclaim all the modules and get the place clean. In the meantime, Urea is working just fine. J'aime ça. Before we continue, I just want to say that I had a problem with the Sandbox blueprint mode. When I tried to put it in full isolation, my game crashed constantly, and when it was not crashing, the isolation just did not work. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, or if it is a bug of the mod caused by the size of Pyanodons. So I let it be as it is. I will try to be careful not to activate some milestones working in it. I do keep it, because I like the fact that you don't have to exit your current game session. We are getting closer to the science, but we still have some chores to do first, such as boron trioxide for the optical sets. I do it next to the borax mining site, and I take some time to redo the station. It was horrendous to watch and to use. I get interrupted once again. This time it is a lack of copper. It seems that putting both gravel and stone on a train at the same station was not the best idea. I will change that later, but right now, if I could just understand what I wanted to do, that'd be great.
Attends, quoi? Où je fais ça, c'est complètement débile alors. Ah non, je comprends l'idée.
Almost there, but I get interrupted once again. What a rude base!
T'es marrant toi, fallait mieux la construire aussi.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right on this one. Anyway, the problems are that we have a lack of plastic, which creates a lack of chlorinated water, which creates a lack of moss, which creates a lack of food, which creates a lack of rocks, which creates a lack of formic acid. Well, I seize the opportunity to move the chlorinated water next to the moss and bring the plastic back trains. That should fix it. Alright, it is more than time to finish this plasmids quick and easy. I redo the subcritical water and we should have almost everything to rebuild the logistical science now. We start with this solidified Sarkarus. Only one incubator is more than enough. After that, we have the biological sample. here as well, pretty simple. Just have to produce some ground sample and turn the bones into bone meals and we are done. We can then mix the ground sample with biological sample to create the Petroleum sample. Finally, we bring all the guts and no glory to produce the animal sample, and now we have 3 out of the 4 items necessary for the science. The fourth one is battery, and since I'm already producing it at my mall, I will let the bots handle it. Yes, I got lazy and wanted to move on to newer stuff. I mean, it is not like it's gonna come back and bite me in the ass, right? Just look at the sheer amount of trains I need for such a small production. Well, at least I have some space to expand if I need to. I can't wait to have cliff explosives. Don't get me wrong, elevated rays are great and all, but I barely use them. My loss, I suppose, but I'll bother another time. I am a very busy man, okay? I can explain. This is not what you think. I am not a degenerate, I swear.
Oh non, c'est encore bien pire que ce que vous pensez.
You shut up! Truth be told, I don't like gachas, and this one is no exception. But damn, this one has some crazy good music thanks to artists like Cosmograph, Mien, Periquitus, and many others you will see in this channel. For real, please go check them out. And since we are on the topic of game music, the more I look into it, the more I like it. And I'm curious, which artist or video games would you recommend for great music? In the meantime, Logistical science is almost ready to start. I aim at 60 science per minute. It is a bit much, especially considering I can only consume half of it right now. I take a look at my base and I see a shortage of circuit because, well, I don't produce enough copper, again. No, really, that station is a mistake. Let's fix it. I decide to change the byproduct stops into a proper gravel or stone one. I also take the opportunity to make 2 stations for copper. And...
Eh merde.
Okay, yeah, well, that's the first of many to come. I grab my stuff back and I finish what I've started. Science is still not going. Ah, I see, I do not produce enough rubber. Because I don't produce enough latex. And this will be a recurrent bottleneck for a time because there is only one recipe to create latex. And I already use it to produce glassware. I could do more latex, but the problem is that it consumes quite a lot of stone, and I am in short supplies right now. The solutions will be new recipes for rubber, allowing to ease off the burden on latex and rely on other products like organic solvents or oleochemicals. We will cover that in due time. Right now I need to do a real refueling station. The one I did kept getting blocked by trains never leaving or entering. I could have gone for a larger one. 3 lanes is a bit small. Nonetheless, it carried me no problem till the end of this session. As you can see, I am currently searching for the fast inserter technology. It is twice as fast as the normal one, and it will help me greatly for many builds to come and even to upgrade some of the old ones. I can't produce them yet since I'm missing iron niobium alloy plates. As any alloys, you just have to put the 2 or 3 metals you need and smelt them together. I'm only using the plates recipe for now, but the later texts unlock molten metal recipes alloys, which are much more efficient. It is around that time that the battery situation bites me back.
Qui aurait pu prédire?
Laziness brings you nowhere in Pi. So I tackle on a real battery build. I only need 0.3 per second, but I will be able to expand it for future needs. Unfortunately, I do not produce the lead antimony alloy since my antimony oxide build is too full of stone and gravel. It is pretty much the same mistake that I did with the copper build, so it is not surprising. In fact, the more I look at my base, the more I find problems and bottlenecks. Never a dull moment. But first, I begin with a little guilty pleasure. Fast inserters in the bot mall. After that, I attend to the biomass shortage by using some of the extra moss I produce and send it up north. This way it can help the carbon dioxide build before going onto a train. And here are my first fast inserters. Much cool. Though I really need more biomass, so I turn towards the Factorio to get it. One build can output up to 20 biomass units a second. I just need to heavily increase my Factorio production. Want to see something cool? Look at all these batteries. Such a far cry from the first chapter. Also, I'm getting tired of slow and unsteady science. I need more labs to consume 90 automation, 60 pi and 30 logistical science. Some adjustment for logiscience, such as doubling the animal sample production and fix that damn rubber. I go a bit overboard though, I do not produce enough organic solvent to maintain that level of production. Just have to unclog the middle oil by burning it and we should be good to go. Wow, almost 20 hours to get logistical science back and running. Alright, enough of the old sciences. Behold, military science.
Mais pourquoi tu n'as pas activé les ennemis? Ça n'a aucun sens.
You are not wrong to point that out, but you are also not right. Military science is absolutely necessary to finish the game and unlock some important techs along the way, such as mining productivity 4. The recipe in itself is not that different from the base game. The most complex item is the ammo magazines. It requires sulfur, which we obtain from acid gas, which comes from drying some tailings. Then we set up the trains next to logistical science, do a metric ton of bricks for the walls, prepare the gunpowder for the magazines, bring everything where it needs to be on belts, shove it in a bottle, mix it gently, and we are done. After what we've been through, this is a breeze. After that, I congratulate myself with a good old cleaning and unclogging session. Speaking of unclogging, I need to deal with all that meat sooner rather than later. Well, one thing I can already do is using the excess lard to create some oleochemicals and glycerol. They are very useful fluids. The first one serves another rubber recipe, and the second one is vital for the cliff explosives I yearn for. Nichrome, lard, and a lot of water, I call that a pretty good recipe. As for the steam, I turn it into power. It will not hurt, trust me. Truth be told, when I saw the footage, I was kind of confused to why I was doing this in the first place. Pi has so many different recipes, I sincerely believe I must be spending a quarter of my playing time in the Factorio encyclopedia. At least it helps me remember what I was doing when I rewatch the gameplay. But strangely, I like that. I like that you have multiple ways to solve a problem. Furthermore, seeing more advanced and better recipes is a motivation in itself. Actually, when there is only one recipe for an item, let's say that freaking latex, it is more of a disappointment than a relief. Anyway, we have another important matter to deal with. No, not that. I had sand casting automation for good in mind. It is a good way to get rid of the excess of stones and gravel. Yep, it varies constantly from not enough to too much and it never settles down. I also prepared the station for sound byproducts, except the only one I have is literally next door.
Ah merde, c'était juste à côté. Quel con.
Well, never mind. It is easy enough to adjust the station for only 2 byproducts and... Oh come on, I just want the suncast to be done. Like that. Once this is done, I quickly turn to that damn rubber to use the recipe with sulfur and oleochemicals. It will ease off the burden on latex even more. Though I have to make more carbon black. It is a small price to pay right now. Also, something I don't produce enough, against all odds, muddy sludge. I need it for the moss and the tree farms. So I settled to this pretty efficient design, easy to reproduce, and built it right under the nickel production south of the farms. On the contrary, something I produce too much of, tailings dust. I can separate it into tin ore, titanium ore and coal dust quite easily, and I can even use some of those items to produce some titanium tetrachloride. It is used for some very useful fluid recipes. I just don't use it in this video yet. Don't mind me, I'm just looking at my future bottlenecks.
Oh, oui, j'ai plein de merde, youpi!
Visiblement, je ne suis pas le seul qui soit resté au stade anal. So the next thing on the agenda is... well, not that. I was saying that the next thing on the agenda was... Okay, well, how about some train talk? Ladies and... okay, actually, large gentlemen and giga chads, may I take a moment of your time to talk about the train network I came up with? You see, as for the cleaning of the base, I spent quite a lot of time refining my blueprint book and my system. Nonetheless, it would be very boring to cut the action every time I have a small epiphany on how to improve it, or when I get into trouble and I need to fix it. I touched on the main ideas in the previous video. I think it is a good time to clarify how it works now. As you can see in the background, sometimes the changes are either barely aesthetics ones or simple practical ones, such as this roundabout. I used the design of someone else made in Factorio 1.0, meaning it was smaller and I could not interact with it properly. Or this excess station that I made but was way too small to fit my other train designs correctly. One major change I already mentioned is the refueling station. Trains got stuck in the old version with nowhere to go, thus blocking other trains and consequently some production chains along the way. But how do trains know where and when to go? I tried to use combinators to indicate via circuit conditions the station where they were needed the most with a simple rule. If not enough resources, go there first. To make that possible, I firstly used a single combinator to change the priority of a station. The problems were: 1. The condition is a bit too vague. 2. The numbers I put for the conditions were too ambitious and unnecessarily high. 3. The station never stops requesting trains even when the priority is at 0. That's when I had the idea to use multiple combinators with the following rules for the receiving end. First, if the station has not enough resources, set the priority at 100. Second, if there are enough resources, the latch sets the priority at 30, thus giving priority where it is needed the most, but don't refuse a little more at that specific station. Third, if there are enough or too much resources, shut down the station. As for the sending end, the rules are much simpler. If there is enough to fill a wagon, activate the train station at 100 priority, otherwise shut it down. Both are parameterized, meaning I can adjust the settings depending on the necessity, which took me quite some trials and errors to get it right, both for items and for fluids. I also did multiple stations parameterized and single lay stations providing with the most common case scenarios. Something I hardly took into account before it became a recurrent problem was that certain items stacks only to 50, like moss, raw coal, seaweed, stone, etc. Normally your item stacks to 100. So when you limit your chest and you have suddenly item that stacks only to 50, you can end up with a limit that is never reached, creating two problems. Either your train is stuck there trying to fill the chests that are already filled, or the station never closes, so you have always a train that goes to this station instead of going to somewhere else. Fluids have their own problem. Train would try to fill the tank until its cargo was empty, which is what happened when you really only on the fill-in cargo in the empty cargo conditions. So now I have a better control of how much I put in chest or in a tank. I tried to do some groups, but I did not use it very much except for highly demanded items with the same conditions such as sandcasting, stones and such. So at this point, trains know what to do, when there is something to do. But what if there is not a single station open, or one of them is closed? Well, you already know the answer, I'm sure, and I am ashamed to admit that I took way too long to make one. It is a train deposit. The logic is very simple. Lots and lots of lanes with a single name stop, deposit. And an interrupt for the deposit. I already had one for the refueling, so it was not really hard to manage this one. I use the condition, if no path or station closed, go to deposit. This prevents any blockages and it's doing wonders. So now the only thing left is to organize properly the blueprint book to get easy access to what I need. You might be thinking that this is still not a very well automated train system, especially if you compare it to masters like Doshington, Avadi or Neuroplastic. And you'd be right. Mainly because I don't really use the interrupt system to its fullest potential. And there is a reason for that, other than my incompetence or my fear of breaking everything I did until now. When I see the kind of system Avadi came up with, I'm thinking, this is amazing. It looks super cool and it looks easy to manage. You just add more trains and it should work. Nevertheless, I feel it is not really good for complex overall modes. As a matter of fact, naming my station helps me figuring out where problems come from, and I can navigate efficiently between train stations in the train menu. I feel that with fully automated train system relying only on interrupts, you lose a bit of sight. It may be because I don't fully get it. You might also be wondering, how do I know where I need to replace the old stations? Well, I don't. I just have to wait for a problem to emerge. For instance, here we have no more copper because there is no more sandcast arriving for the forge. A quick look at it reveals it is the old inefficient system. I just change it and we are good to go. Another train-related matter that occupied quite a lot of my time is the Repentir station. It seems I'm a bit too effective in murdering innocent beings I brought to life. And since the engineer only feasts on the never-ending growth of his creation, we end up with a ton of meat and guts. For now, I try to work on the schedules of the trains and their interrupts, but I'm thinking of a recycling design using atomizers. The idea is quite simple. Trains bring an item to recycling if and only if it is in excess quantity and not required elsewhere. Meat into tin ore, skin into lead ore, etc. The station in itself is easy to build. It is the schedules that were a nightmare for me. I eventually got them to work, I think, but I won't be surprised if I still have to tweak them again. This is the second of my final moment, doing all the modules for the future alien life creatures and plants in one spot, way ahead of time when I'll need them. I just use bots to bring everything that is needed. Right now I'm preparing some ugly and quite frankly scary Germans, as well as some giant wasps known as Arqad. They are a big milestone and you'll get why in a moment. I'm just not ready to tackle them on right now. I still have a lot to do, more genes, more native flora and more sulfur with this amazing sulfur mine, which is going to be super useful for more rubber and for the cliff explosives I've just unlocked. Slight problem though, if cliff explosives are straightforward to make, explosives are not, for they require glycerol and sulfuric acid, which comes from acid gas mixed with water. In itself, it is not a big deal. The problem is that I don't make a lot of acid gas with the tailings recipe. So I check the recipes and find this one with coal bed gas and hot air. Pretty efficient, but I have neither of those. Since hot air is very valuable, allowing more productivity for a lot of smelting processes, I decided to go for it. I also got convinced because the flue gas I get from the coal bed recipe can be compressed into more acid gas with a smidget of gasoline. As for the hot air, I have unlocked a better recipe for it and the recipe to heat back the cold gas. Let me walk you through the process. We first need to heat the stone brick with 250 Celsius degrees coke oven gas to get warm stone bricks. These can get reheated with 500 Celsius degrees coke oven gas. The hotter the bricks, the more we get hot air. The second phase is that each recipe output the same amount of coke oven gas, but at 100 Celsius degrees and at 250 Celsius degree. The latter can be reused for the first step, but the 100 Celsius needs to be disposed of or heated. Thankfully, there is a recipe with molten salt for that purpose. Only problem? At least it was for my ever-fatiguing brain. This last recipe is a little tiny bit tricky. If you watch closely, you will see that we lose some reheated coke oven gas, 5%. But I completely overlooked it and I thought it was a perfectly circular process. Exactement comme dans la première vidéo en fait. Mais quand apprendras-tu? I do wonder. This means that the build you're seeing right now in front of your eyes is absolutely not functional. Moreover, I firstly thought using the natural gas power plant. So, I did go fetch some by digging very deep, extract raw gas from novice bowels, and compress it with gasoline into natural gas. But reason eventually got the upper hand, and I went for the biomass power plant. Way more useful and requires less resources overall. And I also need more electricity. Well, at least my latch worked this time. In conclusion, it is back to the drawing board. This design is a little more promising, but it will endure a lot of changes later. For the moment I seem satisfied with it, so I tend to some preparation. I'm doubling the oxygen production via the nitrogen recipe, and I'm preparing a little molten salt factory near the southern salt mine. Once this is done, I can truly start to build. I choose to go near a stone patch to make the bricks on site. We do not need a lot of them since, and I am sure of this time, they are used indefinitely in the process. Bravo! I move on to the coal bed gas. It can be done anywhere, no need to mine it or something. I naturally go just above the hot air build. I can prepare the acid gas and sulfuric acid recipes, the explosives and cliff explosives themselves, the grenades. All that is missing is hot air, and a few dozen of heat exchangers, and oxygen, but that's just a train away. It seems I copy-pasted as an idiot and got all the pipes mixed with oxygen. Actually, hot air is still not ready to go, but I'm getting impatient. I want to blow things up and I want to blow them now.
Tu ferais mieux de te calmer car ton build n'est vraiment, mais alors pas du tout au point.
And that's an understatement. I forgot ashes, poor thing. I don't have near enough heat exchangers nor power plant to heat the molten salt nor the coke oven gas. And the system is not really circular, losing a bit of coke oven gas every time I heat it. I spare you the details, but a few hours later I finally debug the whole thing and fix most of the issues. Then, out of nowhere, I seem to be deciding it is a good time to improve my iron production by augmenting the input of processed iron. Distraction is strong with me. Sure, it was necessary, but why now? When I rewatch the footage, I always have the impression that I'm having ADHD. But no, it is just OCD. Never mind. Finally, it is time to start the cliff explosives build. Sulfuric acid is done. Just waiting on the gunpowder. Any minute now. Here it comes and here it goes. Ah yes, a common mistake. I forgot to actually give it orders. Oops. But then everything goes smoothly. That's a good thing done, and now I can build anywhere I want. It is finally time we move on to the next big thing, Arqads. Giant wasps which reproduce through sheer carnage. Nevertheless, I still have a few errands to attend to, such as rebuilding retroviruses for the CDNA. You might remember its importance for every new module recipe. While I was doing that, I noticed my molten glass production was insufficient, so I boost and upgrade the 2 builds I have for it. It is also around this time that I woke up and decided to try to take more pro shots of my builds. It's actually harder than it looks, and I don't have the patience nor the ability to make a build without flaws on the go. It becomes quite obvious that I don't want to do these damn wasps. Unfortunately, I can't run away forever, especially since the first German modules is finished and the first Arqad modules and eggs are being processed. And no, this is not a problem in the script. We have to start producing Ulrichs. It will become clear as to why shortly after. Like all the other animals, we have to provide them with dedicated food. Then we force them to reproduce. Finally, we breed the cubs until they get to the adult age to get butchered for their precious resources. Ulrichs are quite useful since they can produce poop and bone meals directly among all the other stuff. In the meantime, I get my first Arqad module.
Ça y est! Woohoo!
Only a naive fool could rejoice at that. We are almost done with the Ulrichs, and before installing the slaughterhouse, an epiphany. Instead of having a metric ton of resources on long builds, let's do a sushi build. It allows a better control of the materials and ensure we do not waste too much. I had to look up how to make one in 2.0, and it is fairly easy compared to 1.0. I won't be able to explain it properly, but the main idea is you monitor what is on the belt via the red circuit. You compare and subtract it to a constant value of the items you want on that belt, that's the arithmetic combinator and the constant combinator, and then you filter your inserters to input only what is required through the decider combinator. Finally, I set up the slaughterhouses and the trains, and now we are good to move on to the dreaded Arqads. Dreaded not just because they are scary giant wasps, but because they require quite a lot of steps to be fully automated. And some steps require a lot of Arqad modules and eggs. Yep, we need Arqads and Arqad's egg to produce Arqads and Arqad's egg and a queen along the way. Don't worry, we'll take things in order. First thing first, honey. We can create empty combs from scratch pretty easily, then fill these combs with tall oil, native flora, and sap. We already produce a trickle with the fiberbolt build, but this won't be enough. Then we unfill said combs for, well, I don't really know why or what, but we get used comb and some bitumen along the way. Once we have our used comb, we can smelt it with hot air to get wax. Wax we turn into Arqad honeycomb. Still following? Good. Have a grimly relaxing view of those god-forgotten beasts. I wish I could just send them in a microwave and be done with it. Now that we have the honeycomb, we need to fill it with Ulrich's blood. Yeah, that's right. Blood honey. This mod gets even more gruesome as we keep playing it, and I don't want to know how Arqads harvest blood honey. There is something uncanny thinking of packing carelessly Germans into a wagon to send them to an industrially abhorrent death. Or is it just me? Anyway, that was the first part of our loathsome puzzle. After the Ulrichs, it is time for the rocks to suffer beyond imagination. We cage them so they can be eaten by the larvae. We bring the eggs by bots for now. The rock suffering is not over yet. We need them to get infected by the larvae and kept alive so Arqads or a queen emerges from their entrails. This is actually pretty similar to the Ampulex compressa, a green wasp, reproduction cycle, or the xenomorph. Things are going smoothly, but we have two bottlenecks right now, eggs and tall oil. The latter is easier to fix. As for eggs, we need a queen to increase the production, so it is not happening soon. Let's begin with tall oil. We return to this raw gas build I did eons ago. Well, we'll need it to make natural gas. It is also necessary for Arqad's growth, and through some processes, we get tall oil. There are two other recipes I rediscovered while writing the script, and they seem very cool too. Oh well, at least I'll strike two birds with one stone with this one. It works by compressing raw gas with gasoline to get naphtha oil, natural gas and condensates. We can use the latter to get BTX, tailings and refined natural gas.
Oh, je croyais que c'était du natural gas.
Yeah, that caught me off guard as well. We can't do much with the BTX except burn it, but it will have some usage later on. The refined natural gas can be compressed again in more condensates and some naphtha oil. Finally, the naphtha oil gets refined into tall oil. A bit technical, but it was a nice escapade. How about we continue ignoring the chaos happening southeast of my base, As I told you, I have a second bottleneck, Arqad's eggs. So, I had an epiphany. While waiting for the queen to pop up, I can mass produce Arqads and eggs by having tons and tons of creature chambers working constantly. Brilliant!
Sauf que c'était pas du tout une bonne idée, hein?
Not by the slightest. On paper, it would have been perfect, but I don't produce nearly enough automation science pack, nor enough codexes to maintain this gargantuan build working properly. I can get the two first row of creator chambers going, and that's it. Moreover, it completely kills my research since all the packs are going to feed that monstrosity. Like a madman aware of his madness, I cut the half of the build. I really want this thing to work, so I try my best to keep it alive, but it is doomed to fail. On a more positive note, somehow, I have accumulated some infected rocks. That means I can tackle on the real thing now. I just need some red hot cock before that, and put the natural gas we just mined into barrels, then we can serve it on the sushi belt. At least this will work and provide me with more modules. This also means I have everything necessary to begin the gambling game. Since this is the last thing we need to build, I put the reproductive complex for future eggs we'll get with our queen at the end of the chain. I aim at 1 queen per reproductive complex. Because the queen is not a module, it is a real ingredient, and it has a 0.1% chance to die in the process of giving birth. Very unlikely, so that's good news. Now our cards are done, mostly. We can't do much more except waiting for a queen to be born, so in the meantime I will attend to some maintenance of the base. The wood stopped being produced for a very sneaky reason, and I'm wondering if you can find out why. Those who saw the seedling mixed with the moss, congrats. When I rebuilt this bigger, I had forgotten one inserter, the one on the right, who, from time to time, put a seedling on the moss belt, thus blocking the production. Another shortage, the seaweed farm. Those I built are not even enough to sustain the agar build just up north, less the entire base. So I built more, way more, 30 seaweeds per second. I mean, it's very cheap, so there is no reason not to go big. Same goes with sap. I also take some time to start implementing the hot air variant recipe where the production is lagging, such as the glassware build. It will ease off the latest consumption a bit. Speaking of hot air, it was around this time I finally noticed I've read the cock oven gas recipe wrong.
Ah, j'avais mal lu la recette comme d'habitude. Je perds
c'est pas entièrement circulaire. Je me disais, c'est bizarre, j'ai l'impression de perdre. Mais c'est pas une impression, c'est j'en perds. I have another more serious bottleneck to deal with. Circuits. Like any good Factorio run, you never have too much circuits. Even if producing something like 2 per second got me quite far. It was due to a rebuild anyway. So I prepare the necessary machines and start working on it. As usual, it is quite tedious to do. But since you already saw me do it twice, let's edit this quick and dirty. We start with resistors and capacitors. Then vacuum tubes, the formaldehyde, the formica, and the basic substrate. Connecting all the belts while they are empty is a fun challenge. There will be 1-2 mistakes, of course. Okay, let's slow down now because I have changed 2 major things compared to last time. For starter, I use the circuit recipe with real battery, which means I have to increase my battery build. Then I'm using a new recipe for the formica using melamine resin and fiberboard. I already produce all I need, but I must increase the melamine production. For that, I increase the poop build. And for better poop, I feed the orcs with their special food item. In the meantime, the bots have been doing some good work. I think I'm pretty ready to launch this small behemoth and get my juicy 7.5 circuits per second. The shot for the launch was going splendidly until I ran into mistakes. Not anyone can be a pro. Let's continue as if nothing happened. That's a good thing done. After this, I take some time to check the base. It is a new rhythm of work I've adopted. A major build, then maintenance. It allows to let off some steam after an intense workout with smaller fixes that improve the base overall. Well, that one is on me. So yeah, anyway, improving the flow for iron, implementing the hot air and almost doubling the production. Nice. Now it's time for our favorite game. When is Ch.3 going to find out he screwed himself up? What are your estimations? After the iron improvement, I'm mining a new patch of stone. Because, surprise surprise, I don't have enough right now. This means I will also have to double the kerogen processing if I want to get rid of it. I could burn it and get some power as well, but that means I would have to deal with the ashes. I will figure something out. I also slightly improve the small parts build, which will mean improving the copper build, but...
C'est pas que je suis pas contre de refaire tout ce bordel, mais... C'est quand même un sacré bordel.
And then, this happened.
Ok, alors, j'ai beaucoup de choses à expliquer.
So yeah, I started to monitor my base before playing the game. This way, I could spot on the problems and bottlenecks. And of course, those monitoring sessions were not recorded nor saved. This is a cool way to make progress without losing playing time. But it happened that in one of these sessions I got an Arqad Queen. Things I never imagined having that quickly. Thus, a dilemma. And I decided to start the recording there and keep the Queen. This way I could start the egg production officially. Oh wow, it seems I panicked for nothing. Time for the new big project. Kikolk, or Kikolk, I don't know, I'm French. It is a very useful plant for 2 reasons, raw fiber and biomass. At this point in time, I am considering changing fuel to go from coke to raw fiber. It is a bit more effective and you have no ash to deal with. I decide to directly use the second more effective recipe for Kikolk, It uses sand, and it so happens that this amazing recipe exists. I simply void the muddy sludge. Then it is standard procedure. Make the seeds using the Keycolk we produce, then make the Keycolk production. This build should provide 2 Keycolks per second once all the modules are in place. It will take a while, but it is not like we are in a hurry. Right under the Arqad should be fine. Then it is a matter of putting the blueprint down, provide the clay and the steam to make the clay, bringing everything by trains, and we are good to wait on the bots to build. Not a difficult process per se, but a very slow one to start. Never a dull moment in the factory though. I am a bit short on lard for the oleochemicals, so I'm using this newly unlocked recipe turning brains into lard. This is really great because I had not much to do with the brains anyway. I also take some time to fix my planter box situation. Even with 9 trains dedicated for the stone, it was not enough for this build.
Faut admettre aussi que ce n'est pas construit de manière très optimale.
Sure, it could use some improvement. But for now, just using a better recipe for stone bricks will do the trick. From this point, I do a lot of maintenance because the base is in a fragile state while trying to implement new and important product. I also implement 2 new products in the factory, the first one being the filtration media. It is used in a quite massive number of recipes. So it's a good idea to get that out of the way. We need pure sand, so I reuse the sand design and adjust it to clean even more the sand to purify it. The rest goes to waste. It also requires microfiber. We shove it all together and it just works. I then start producing olefins, thinking it will help me increase my organic solvent production thanks to this recipe. In the end, I did not use it yet. But I'm confident it will be of use for later. It is fairly easy, especially if we use this syngas to hydrogen and carbon dioxide recipe to feed the process. And I'm also putting steam on trains. After all, there are a lot of recipes needing steam with unspecified heat. Let me see, what's next in the agenda? More Ralesias. Yes, both the flower and the seed were not enough. So a new improved and bigger build it is. I reuse the same design, I just improve it a little and mess with the modules to get a rounded number of production. I know I have a lot of flowers waiting in a chest somewhere in the ever-growing factory. The factory must grow. So I use the search factory mode. I really enjoy this mod, even though I don't use it as often as I wish. Those flowers would be perfect as modules to kickstart the build. Now, the next big project is way more moss. I tried to compromise at first, but this was of no use. I even removed the biomass build, and that was a mistake because it compromised my Moondrops build, so I put it back later. But soon enough,
J'en ai marre, on relance, on fait ça x2.
I was reluctant because I really wanted to move on, but in reality you can't move on if things don't work properly. Plus, moss eats a lot of stone, and it was already quite cramped in this tiny box. So I took the matter at hand and built next to a new stone patch that will be dedicated only for the moss. The rest is pretty straightforward. Make it bigger to aim at 30 moss per second. We place it, wait for the bots to build it, exploit the stone patch, carbon dioxide with biomass, muddy sludge, not enough belts, getting rid of the not enough belts? It seems I have to increase my other mold again, since the bots aren't fast enough. Never mind. Sometimes playing Pi feels like doing a megabase challenge. With all that moss, I should be in the clear for a while. I'm also short on cyanic acid for the batteries. So I looked up the encyclopedia and find this recipe I somehow missed or most certainly forgot. Common pie playthrough, I guess. It will eat up all my ammonia, but since I got some in reserve and I am not really using it right now, might as well do that. Finally, the Kick-Hulk build is full. It only took 8 hours. Let me quickly check if the Arqads are doing alright. Oh yes, they are. This is a friendly reminder to be careful with logistic chests and always set a filter to avoid this embarrassing situation. Speaking of embarrassing, mais vous me cassez les... Pourquoi vous voulez passer là? C'est donc vrai, les jeux vidéo rendent violents. I got this very annoying train jam because I misplaced a signal. Let's play our favorite game again. How long will it take me to realize that it is a misplaced signal? Attends une minute. Tu n'as toujours pas montré si tu avais réglé l'accès ou pas. Yes. Est-ce que cela signifie que tu ne l'as toujours pas vu? Yes. So the bets are still on. Now it is time to move on and tackle on a new plant called the Ch.3. And I will take this time to repair the iron. What's going on here? Oh, ça c'est pas bon ça. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Pas de haute mer. Aïe, 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 aïe. Ah, ouais. Non. Ah, the embarrassment that keeps on giving. Nonetheless, easy fix, and I'm about to get my first alien potato. I still need a bit more to ensure the beginning of the process though. So I finally make a proper station for the zinc and eliminate the soil by making it liquid again and sending it down to... Well, actually I have no idea where this is going. It could be hell at this point. I got a surprise for you. The old base is finally, definitely erased from history. I'm really having a hard time staying focused on one thing at a time. I tried to discipline myself a bit better and finally start this Ch.3 build. As with the Kick-Hulk, it is not really difficult, and it is the same puzzle we already faced multiple times. We still need to provide some special items though. It starts with the coarse fraction. The best solution I come up with was to use the soil separation recipe. Soil is free and I have plans for the byproducts. The most annoying one is the lime. But there is this recipe that can help us void the lime, giving us more soil to separate or even use the excess for the Ch.3 build. As for the biomass, we can send it via a train when it is needed, and the excessive flow of sand can be classified into way more digestible quantities of gravel, iron oxide and crushed quartz. The final thing we need now is manure bacteria, and it is pretty straightforward. Now that the plan is clear, we place the buildings not far from the hot air and the Kick-Hulk and wait. Well, discipline did not last very long. Ta-da! And it now looks weird in the map view. I will have to do something about it one day. I even tried some ideas but decided not to do it and finish that damn Ch.3 build. But before that, I finally found what was causing the train jam issue. Bah maintenant j'ai compris pourquoi, il y avait un signal qui était pas au bon endroit. Only 3.5 hours, personal best. Okay, I promise no more distraction. I really want to end this Ch.3 build. With Kick-Hulk and Ch.3 done, we can move on to a new major project, Korlex. Except not quite. We need 2 little fluids before we can make the modules. Fetal serum and artificial blood. We'll do them in that order. Right after setting the sea sponge module production and transforming the wastewater byproduct the fish build make into urea. I do not produce much wastewater yet, but it will give a hand to the cyanic acid / ammonia build. With the mine clear, I can now begin the fetal serum. To be fair, it is not that difficult. We can make silver plate directly at the lead melting facility by borrowing some silver lead dust. There is also a special suit recipe that delivers free silver plates. There is even one for gold plates.
Attends, tu joues un ingénieur ou un alchimiste? Parce que la poussière qu'il y a chez moi elle ne me rend pas plus riche.
Then we bring the silver, shove it in a glassware with some guts, and we get fetal serum. Not bad. I really hope artificial blood is as easy. After all, it is only 2 items. Yeah, that's right. Not falling for that a second time, game. Artificial blood is quite a doozy. A friend of mine got interested in my hobby, so I explained him what I was doing.
Tiens, pour te donner une idée de la difficulté du bordel, je suis en train de produire ça, Artificial Blood, pour créer ces espèces de vaches à lait. Et la chaîne de production, ben, c'est tout ce bordel. Voilà.
Let me tell you, he fled with full force. Now you might get a general idea of what we are dealing with, but let's dive in a bit more detail, shall we? Starting with the easiest, cobalt extract. We need to mix 3 types of ores: copper, nickel, and rare earth. We already have 2 out of 3. For the rare earth, we have 2 options. We can either mine massive big rocks with massive drills, or we can mine the ore off the ground with naphtha. Eventually we'll have to use both methods, but I start with the easy one. As for nickel, I'm thinking adding some miners would do the trick, but come on, this is really a sad build. Okay, just a little detour, I swear. We're gonna get nickel stage 2 unlocked and it's gonna be quick. Plus, it has been long since we have done a new molten recipe. Come on, I'm sure you've been missing it too. Our aim is nickel grade 4. For that, we start as usual by crushing the nickel ore into the grade 1, known as what we were smelting to get placed so far. Then we pass the nickel grade 1 in an automated screener to get nickel grade 2 and 3, nickel rejects and some gravel. Since the nickel grade 2 and the rejects can be crushed further down the line into the grade 1, I came up with this rather cool looking design. It allows all the grade 1 to go on the same belt in symmetry. This way, at the end of the chain, we are left with only the grade 3 to be crushed into the grade 4, ready to be smelted, then turned into plates. And just like that, we get 15 nickel plates a second. It is a bit overkill right now, I agree, but trust me, you never produce too much in Pi. See, it wasn't long at all. Now we have the blueprint, so all that is left is to place it down, prepare the trains in and out, connect the belts and prepare a nice time lapse. End of the detour, back to the cobalt extract. As I said, it is an easy step. You crush copper, nickel and rare earth together, then take the mixture and add some cyanic acid in a flotation cell, and you are done. For the next steps, I will need to make sure that my sulfuric acid and really a blackout now. So it seems the problem comes from my ash tray not picking up the ash made by the second installment. It appears one of the train was stuck trying to get in an already full station because there was not enough space for him. And since this was next to the steel production... Attends. Ah merde. J'ai jamais relié. Yeah, for sure, that's a personal best, but not in the right sense. A quick look at my mole revealed that I was actually missing steel very badly. It will take some time to recover. So that's done research, but Don't get your hopes too high. I won't be able to touch this in this video. It is quite a challenge. Maybe if I was not being rudely interrupted every second, I could have.
Mais quelle indignité.
Alright, let's go back to the artificial blood by crushing some ores. That sentence makes no sense, and yet it does. You are seeing the rare earth oxide build taking form. It is not the simplest to design, especially because of the fluids and all the byproducts, among them zinc plates and uranium ore. I am very happy with the result. All the belts in the middle will carry out the byproducts. Once it is placed for the bots, I carry on with the cobalt fluoride and the albumin since they are not that complicated. It already looks quite impressive. So let's continue. For the byproducts, I crush the stone into gravel for convenience. I also smelt the iron oxide into iron plates. You never have enough. The factory must grow. And I stockpile the uranium ore. The rest onto trains. When that is taken care of, it is fluid time. First, we got Decalin. Second, we got Flutec PP6. And finally, the sacred artificial blood. To be honest, I am surprised and very glad I managed to make everything fit in this space between the albumin and the cobalt fluoride. It looks quite stunning. Let's turn this baby on. And no achievements? Really? It is working fine, but I'm short on many supplies, namely rare earth. So let's mine it proper. I just need naphtha, which I already produced near the natural gas build. Speaking of which, I need to make sure I produce enough of it. So I redesigned a more robust and productive drilling fluid build. I place it under the tar processing to benefit from the steam buffer for the clay. And a small piece of advice. Be careful about the various temperatures of the steam and try not to mix them together. I jam my tar processing build by mixing 150 Celsius degree steam with 2050 Celsius one. I need to mine more raw gas. Pump jacks are amazing, but for raw gas, both. Only 5 per second. Time to mine. Once again, a very beautiful asset. Finally, we can start to make Korlex modules. But no time to rest. If I can't make Pi Science 2, I wish to at least make those goddamn Korlex I work so hard for. Let's start as always with the food. This time it is a bit more tricky, because it uses a lot of fishes both for the food and for the fish hydrolysate. More than a full belt to be precise. I am not producing nearly enough. I will have to boost my production, otherwise this build will never work. Let's finish designing it first. Only the pups and the Korlex themselves are left to build. Using the sushi belt trick, it is not particularly difficult. That behemoth of a build, just to get 0.5 Korlex per second. Since this build needs both kickoffs and tufras, as well as their respective seeds, I place it just under the kickoff build. Speaking of which, I have accumulated enough modules to launch a second one of these bad boys. To bring both their seeds and their flowers, I will use 2 long belts for old time's sake. But I'm starting to be missing of said belts, and my power grid is reaching its limit.
Alright, so another detour it is. But this is for good reason. I begin with power since it is the most important of the two. Unfortunately, the biomass power plant is bigger than the coal one. Well, it was due for a redesign anyway, so let's start again. Now to place it. I go under the old but still functioning one. There is no reason to disconnect it just yet. I start building it right away with some buffer I had from my mole. The rest will be built over time. I just need to get this thing going to pursue my ultimate goal. The factory must grow. Later, I will add fiber and biomass to get burned there as well. Fiber because it has a better fuel value. And biomass because I can delete it in the blink of an eye if I ever produce too much of it. Power is back in order, so it is time to do more iron. For that, I will use the third recipe since I can double my iron plate production with approximately the same setup as here. That means more steps of course, but it is well worth it. You know the first steps will be a lot of crushing to get various grades of iron and keep only the one we need. This time, it is the grade 1. As for nickel, the grade 2 and the grade 3 can be crushed into the grade 1. Hence this lovely design to get all the grades 1s on the same belt to get reduced to iron dust. Then we mixed it with water to get two fluids. Iron pulp stage 1 and iron slime. The fantastic news is that both of them are turned into slimed iron with a bit of water. Take that slimed iron, smelt it, cast it, and you get 5 full yellow belts of iron plates, 75 per second. Funnily enough, the balancing of those belts was even more challenging than the build. Now it is just a matter of placing it down, waiting for the bots to build and bootstrap the belts if I want it to be finished one day. A rock smelting process should do the trick until we get all 5 belts of iron. I have decided to move the iron processing next to these two patches and leave the old one only for steel production. Plus, there is some borax sitting just there waiting to be exploited. I rebuild the borax setup by copying the one I already have. Then I finally activate that raw fiber build with Kickolk. Right now it will be barely sufficient for my iron build. I intend to improve it in the future, and maybe turn the raw fiber into fiber for 2 more megajoules per item. Oxygen and foundries, then the train stations. The bots are almost done thanks to the proximity to the mall. Just a bit more waiting to do, and we are good to start the process. After some debugging, it is working as intended, except for a few missing arms. I scavenged some on the old iron build and voila! It is a sight to behold. Iron is done, so I can finally turn back to the fishes. I want to produce 30 fishes per second, and it is quite an undertaking. So, to facilitate the process, I will use the second fish recipe and I will be making Fish Mark II modules. They require quite a lot of normal fish to kickstart the process, so for now I will use regular Mark I modules until I can stockpile enough Mark IIs. We begin, as usual, with the specific food. It requires a lot of different items, fish among them, but nothing special. The hardest part is to connect all the belts correctly. As for the real build, I decide to stick with the jerky recipe for the phytoplankton to get rid of the meat excess. Though looking back at it, I'm thinking the tin ore grade 1 recipe would be more effective. I will see how it goes. Then the egg build. Then the fish build. Go massive or go home moment. It will take a moment for the bots to build all of it, so I will do it in chunks.
I just need to start making more fish for the Modules Mark II and the Korlex build. After connecting all the fluids properly, we can begin the egg production. While it works in the background, we can increase our lamp production. This small build should be enough. Now we can connect all the belts and have a river of fish upon us. In a few hours. Which leaves me some time to quickly deal with the copper. Too much stone is blocking the system, so I turn them to gravel. Plus, I finally implement the hot air recipe. It just needs a few adjustments, and it will be able to make 37.5 copper plates a second. And just like that, I have my first shipment of fish to be delivered for the Korlex, and right on time for a final time lapse. This is where we depart with some conclusive words. I first wanted this video to come out before Christmas, but life happened and I burned myself a little on the mode as well. There was a moment, around the 250th hour, when I convinced myself I could do Pi Science 2 in this chapter. That was a mistake. Pi should be played step by step with smaller, more approachable goals. Otherwise, you get lost in the overcomplicated steps to get there. Artificial blood is a good example of one item taking several massive steps. As for me, I was so focused on Pi Science 2 that I neglected my base and had a lot to redo, the seaweed, the moss, the iron, etc. Ultimately, I lost a lot of time like that. This was not the spirit I had when I started this challenge. The burn was a kind reminder that I can/must take things slowly. Even like that, there is a lot of progress done in 100 hours. So that's that. And then it was Christmas time, plus the New Year. You know how it goes. Enough rambling about me. It is the time I also wish to thank you all for your patience, your support, and your kind words. And I want to have a special shout out to my Patreons. Your trust in seeing this project continue and eventually end means the world to me. I hope you liked the changes in the edit style, and more generally that you enjoyed this video altogether. I will see you all for the next chapter in, fingers crossed, 6 weeks from now, give or take 1 week. So something around the end of February or the beginning of March. Au revoir et à bientôt.